My name is Deloria Merchek. Welcome to my channel and welcome to a new playlist on this channel called Conspiracy and Mystery. Now, why conspiracy? Why mystery? Well, 99% of the time, this is what my mind is on. And not only conspiracies, but the conspiracy theories that back up those conspiracies. Now, if you enjoy conspiracy and mystery, I would recommend subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. And with that said, today I was going to do a hint, but then on our topic, but then I realized a thumbnail is a pretty direct answer of the topic today. So that would be I'm not gonna do. But before I get into that, know that even though we're talking about conspiracy and mysteries, I'm not here to suck the joy out your life. I don't want you to leave this channel not being able to trust anyone. You can't eat anything, you can't drink anything, you can't watch anything, you can't believe in anything or listen to anything. In my opinion, you're not meant to swallow the red pill at all times. So I want to make that clear before we move on. So, what inspired this video today? Well, it was a Scooby-Doo movie. Yes, on a bad day, I put one of those bad babies on. And one of my favorite Scooby-Doo movies is Scooby-Doo Pirates Ahoy. Let me give you a quick plot breakdown of this film. Mystery Inc. crew. They are on a cruise ship on Fred's parents' dime. What I can take from all these movies, Fred's parents are rich. Love that for him, love that for them. I love the fact that Fred loves his Mystery Inc. crew. Now, with it being the Mystery Inc. crew, of course they're going to do some type of shenanigans while on this cruise line. The cruise line gets hijacked by very disrespectful, rude, however, optimistic, focused, and determined pirates who are being led by a painting of stars. The painting, they believe, is actually a map that will lead them to the everlasting light, the ultimate treasure, immortality. Now, the whole plot of this film is this really a painting of the map to an everlasting light? Or is it just a painting of some asteroids that broke through our ozone layer and kiss our Earth's surface? Now, in order for you to find out the answer, you must watch that movie. I am not here to ruin anything. However, with it being the Mr. Inc. crew, you know something spooky is going to happen on this cruise line. The cruise line is sailing over the Atlantic Ocean. And one thing we all know about the Mr. Inc. crew, they do not die. They are like cockroaches, they are like the Terminator. They don't die. And they find themselves in the Bermuda Triangle. Why I mention that is because a lot of things that happen regarding the Bermuda Triangle, most people die or go missing, and for some reason, the Mr. Inc. crew, they just don't. But they do deal with some spooky things while they're in the triangle. Those things include whirlwinds, I believe, water sprouts, I believe, which are terrifying. I can't really remember if they dealt with those things. However, they dealt with hurricane weather. They did deal with hurricane weather. They saw sea monsters, ghost ships, and one thing that caught my eye more than anything was 5 World War II bombers flying in formation. That's right, baby. Today, we're going to talk about the conspiracy and mystery surrounding Flight 19. Take my hand as we take a few decades back into history. And this story begins in the 1940s. Now, what is going on with the world? Where are we at? Well, the 1940s was post World War II. It was a heavy time indeed. April 30th of 1945, Hitler died. The war officially ended September 2nd of 1945. Truman was in office in the United States, and allies were being made, enemies were being solidified. Till this day, there are countries that get along and sort of get along due to the decisions that took place during this time in history. So, very important time. Like I mentioned, the world was dealing with the after effect of what I would say close to a demonic reign of Hitler, his cruel ruling, and in Germany and beyond. Also, now let me zero in particularly with America and zero in into the military defense found in aviation. All of this leads us to Flight 19. Now, the day in question, the day of mystery, was on December 5th, 1945, at the U.S. Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yes, Florida, it's a beautiful state to learn how to fly. I get why there was a station there. Now, with that said, what was Flight 19? Flight 19 was 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bomber planes and 14 crew members. And let me give you guys a quick breakdown of these bombers. Quick rundown on these bomber planes. Now, these bomber planes were the bread and butter, the pride of America during World War II. They were the envy of many countries. Of course, World War I had airplanes, but there was such an advancement in technology, crafting, and skill setting pilots and building planes that can just survive more intense war. So these bombers were the top tier. Okay, if you were a pilot, you want to fly these bombers. If you were a bomber, a plane that had emotion, reasoning, and you can choose, I don't know, make choices, you would want a skilled pilot to fly you. These bombers, there's plenty of documentation, military testimony that the bombers, as well as the pilots that flew them, were personally responsible for saving many lives at sea, land, and air. These bombers also participate in a very intense method of war called dogfighting. Now that we took care of the information on the bombers, let's get down to the actual crew of Flight 19. Flight 19 was led by lead pilot, lead flight instructor Charles C. Taylor. He was a lieutenant in the Navy. And this was the guy for the job. He had 25,000 flight hours under his belt. He participated in a handful of World War II combat tours over the Pacific. So he knew how to lead, teach, he knew the sea, the air, and he also knew how to deal with close to near-death experiences. The Flight 19 also consisted of 4 trainee pilots. It took me a minute to get that out, my bad. 4 trainee pilots, and the rest of the crew were students. A handful of strange things, mysterious things one would say, that occurred with Flight 19 before it even reached air. Flight 19, like I said, was a routine navigation training exercise flight. It was booked for 1:45 p.m. that day. However, pilot Taylor was a few minutes late. That was out of norm for him, and also he stated to those close to him that he just didn't know why. He wasn't in the mood to go up that day. Another strange thing was 15 was supposed to be the actual number of crew members that day. However, one flyer requested to be removed from the flight because he reached his amount needed, his required amount of flight hours. So he wanted to be taken off the flight, which, totally makes sense. Another thing that was really eerie about this exercise, it was the third out of 3 that was required for the remaining students on this flight to pass. 5 bombers that made Flight 19 were FT-28, 36, 81, 3, and 117. The boys went up at 2:10 p.m. to take on the skies. And everything was smooth sailing. At 2:30, they were documented to reach their hens and chicken show last location. At 3 p.m., it was reported that a fisherman spotted Flight 19 heading east. At 3:40, there was a seasoned flight instructor, a senior flight instructor called, what was his name? I believe his name was Robert C. Fox. I really hope I got that right. But Robert C. Fox, he also took up his crew around 3:40 up in the air to complete the same flying route as Flight 19. Flight 19 took a turn north at 3:45 p.m. And this is where all the mystery began. Our first recorded communication from pilot Taylor to the tower in Fort Lauderdale. He stated, "Cannot see land. We seem to be off course." The tower, of course, responded back, "What's your position?" 2 personnel from the tower looked out to see if Flight 19 was in the air that they were supposed to be completing their training, and they were not. At 3:55, another voice went over the radio waves to the tower stating, "Everything is wrong. We can't be sure of any direction. Everything looks strange, including the ocean." Now, I don't know what Homeboy was seeing. I don't know if he was seeing a whirlwind, if he was seeing some color emerging from the ocean, if he was seeing the sea split. I don't know what was going on, but whatever he saw shook him to his core. Now, at 4 p.m., I mentioned that senior flight instructor that was in the sky, Robert. Yeah, Robert. He heard a really strange transmission over the radio, and it was Flight 19. He heard what he supposed and what we all supposed through research I found, that it was actually Pilot Taylor talking to one of his students asking for a compass reading. The student, his name was Powers, he was a captain, responded back, "I don't know where we are. We must have gotten lost at our last turn." Now, when Fox heard this is obviously concerning. He picked up his radio, asked the communication to identify itself, and the response back was, "This is FT 28." Taylor said, "Hey," not Taylor, no, Fox. Fox said, "Hey, what is going on? Where are you guys at? What's happening? Are you lost?" Taylor responded with pure honesty, to be honest. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he pretty much stated that both his compasses were broken. He wasn't too sure how to get back to Fort Lauderdale. He is above land, but the compasses are broken. He believed he might be in the Keys, but he's unsure how to get back to Fort Lauderdale. Right after he sent this message out to Fox, a pilot in the Flight 19 crew reported Flight 19 is missing, as lost. As not missing. This pilot reported Flight 19 as lost, which I have high respect, because when you think about it, think of the chain of command. This is not only like normal flying of who's in command, but this is military. So if your head pilot is pretty confident, I mean, he's lost, compass are broken. I don't know how confident you can really be, but he seems to be, I'm sure we're going to get back, and you take upon yourself to report your crew, and you're not at the higher rank of command, that you guys are lost. That just tells you that they were really lost. They were losing faith in Taylor. They were. And we'll begin to see that more as the story goes along. Now, at 4:15 p.m., this was the last communication that Flight 19 sent out to the tower. I'm going to tell you it right now. Sorry. I don't know why I paused like that. It is stated, "We can't tell where we are. Everything. I can't make out anything. We think we may be about 225 miles northeast of base. It looks like we are entering white waters. We're completely lost." And that was completely eerie. And that is our last word from Flight 19 to the tower. Now, Fox is trying to do all he can to help Taylor and his crew get back to Fort Lauderdale. After Taylor sent that very honest communication back, Fox was like, "Okay, let's just figure this out. You know what? Here are the coordinates to get back to Fort Lauderdale. Send me your altitude. What's your altitude? You give me your altitude, I'll just come meet you, and I'll get you guys back to Fort Lauderdale." I mean, that makes sense. I mean, yes, help me. I am lost. My crew is lost. Help me. Now, for whatever reason it may be, pride, arrogance, maybe Taylor overestimating that he knew the area better than what he did. Mind you, this is his first time flying this route, and he actually transferred from Miami. Taylor did. So it might be believed that some of his students even knew the area more than he did. For whatever reason, confusion, probably a lot of drama going on, whatever reason it was, Taylor denied the help. He responded back to Fox, "Oh, I know where I'm at now. I'm 2,300 feet. Don't come after me." Now, Fox did comply with Taylor's request. He did not go after him. I believe Fox did eventually return back to the air station, and he was highly involved in helping them find Flight 19 and give a general idea of where he was at when he last spoke to him. Now, around 4:28 p.m., Flight 19 began to, they just kept going. They kept going direction they really weren't supposed to go. And they found themselves flying over small islands, and eventually it was just sea. And pilot Taylor, I think he just finally realized, like, oh, we should be by some form of land by now. For some reason, he was just so stuck on the fact that he was above the Keys, that he was somewhere near Florida, but reality, he was far from it. So around 4:28 p.m., he did send out an internal message, like he called his crew again among their frequency, and he mentioned that, "Hey, there's no more land. We should call Miami so that Miami could get their radar gear on and come find us." So I don't know if it was, situations can humble you. You can be so set on one way, and then when things are looking like another way, you're like, "Hold on, let me just retrace my steps here." This information did eventually get sent out to the Air Sea Rescue Task Force. No, Task Unit 4. Wow, that's a mouthful. Yes. And they're in Fort Everglades, Florida. They sent out the information to Fort Lauderdale. Then it got sent out to Naval Air Station in Miami. No one can find the FT-28 on radar. The FT-28 was the bomber that pilot Taylor was flying. And the reason why they couldn't find them on radar, and this is going to be a common theme with pilot Taylor regarding this flight, he really did not like taking help. This is my purpose. What I've collected from my research is he was just not a fan of taking help. Now, when Flight 19 was having communication with the tower before that last eerie message, the tower kept trying to get in contact with pilot Taylor, telling him to turn on his, I believe his YG, his FTT transmitter. Did I get that right? Hold on, let me check my notes. I didn't get it right. But it's YGIFF transmitter. Now, what was so cool about this? It was like a little radar. And what it did, it triangulated you. It triangulated an aircraft. And what does triangulated mean? Triangulated is a technique used to get a precise location of an aircraft or ship. For some reason, pilot Taylor said no. His actions said no. He did not do that. On top of that, the tower requested and recommended, okay, that Flight 19 talk on the search and rescue frequencies. These were much more clear communications. You can hear better through these frequencies. And for whatever reason, Taylor did it. The flight, they just did it. They didn't do that. So now fast forwarding to all these air stations trying to find Flight 19, they couldn't. So what they did, they had to communicate with 20 land facilities to do all they can to help find Flight 19. And what's really cool about this, okay, I learned, just listen, like taking advice from personal flyers I know in research, they were still able to find Flight 19's maybe an idea of their location due to the radio frequency waves. So 20 locations were connected to take care of this task. Yeah, pretty intense. Just wish pilot Taylor would put on that darn radar. At 5:03 p.m., the Air Rescue Task Force, they heard a transmission between pilot Taylor and his crew, and it stated this: all planes in this flight, join up in close formation. Let's turn and fly east. We have gone too far north. On that same frequency, a pilot stated, no, if we just head west, we can get home. Darn it, fly west. Another thing that was really strange about pilot Taylor is he wasn't doing protocol. Remember the beginning of the story when I mentioned to you that there was a change in what voice came over the intercom when they were talking to the tower? That was supposed to happen. Let me break something down to you guys. Give you guys some aviation 101. When there are 14 crew members on a plane, we're not here to hear 14 different people talking on one or many radio frequencies. That's just way too confusing. So all the communications is supposed to go to the man in charge, which would be pilot Taylor. Okay? But for some reason, maybe due to confusion or whatever it may be, and there might be another reason why when I get later into this video, of why pretty much the authority, the command of authority changed to someone else. Okay? I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was going on with this flight. I have no clue. It just sounds so confusing. At 5:16, it's recorded that Flight 19 did change its course. And at this point, they are half in their fuel. And what's scary about this, in December in Fort Lauderdale, it gets dark at 5:30. They had 14 minutes left of any form of sunlight, if any. 50, the land facilities that were given the task to help find the location of Flight 19 did find their location. And the idea that they got was they were located northeast of Fort Lauderdale, way off base from where they were supposed to be at. At 6:20 p.m., this was the timestamp for Taylor's last message to his crew. All planes close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down. At 6:30 p.m., at this point, Flight 19 is way less than half with their fuel. It's believed between 7 p.m. and 7:30 p.m., Flight 19's fuel completely ran out over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, a rescue mission was orchestrated and executed. 2 PBM Marina flying boat aircraft. I'll leave an image here. Okay, 2 of them were sent out. 10 minutes later, there was issues communicated by the tower, and one of them completely exploded. So it's really tragic to say this, that Flight 19, there's so much surrounding like the lure around Flight 19 and it being over the triangle and all these conspiracy mystery around it, that sometimes the rescue crew gets overshadowed. So I really do want to acknowledge them in this video. The rescue mission contained of 13 crew members. Flight 19 contained of 14. So in total, 27 lives were lost and 6 aircraft went missing. So there was eventually 250,000 square miles of land and sea search. Until this day, this is recorded as one of the most invasive, expensive, longest, and sought after searches in Navy military history. Now, when it comes to Flight 19, there of course is tragedy. It's sad. I mean, lives were lost. No one was expecting this day to end so sadly. Now we're about to get into the theories. I'm going to try my hardest to breathe and to not get too excited. So let's start off with the first conspiracy theory, the Bermuda Triangle. For centuries, even during the exploring of Christopher Columbus, he himself even had diary documentation of strange things, a strange light happening near the Bermuda Triangle. For centuries, many people have believed the Bermuda Triangle to be a supernatural or magnetic force field, a portal almost, that consumes victims. It takes aircraft, ships, people. It makes things just mysterious. Now, there are a few things that back up this conspiracy. For one, it was the actual testimonies of Flight 19 that we have recorded. Them stating the ocean being strange and looking off, the compasses being broken and not working properly. People believe that these are all due to the magnetic or the supernatural feel and experience of the Bermuda Triangle. People believe that there's actually these huge magnetic forces, like almost like these magnetic crystals under the Bermuda Triangle that just suck people down. And when it comes to the strange look of the ocean, people believe that the Bermuda Triangle has a spiritual aspect and also a magnetic field aspect that can literally make the ocean look different. The other side that supports this Bermuda Triangle theory is actually pop culture. In the 60s and 70s, we began to see a drastic increase in sci-fi films, sci-fi fantasy, and sci-fi theories, particularly regarding the Bermuda Triangle. There were 2 magazines in particular done by Charles and Vincent, and it just amplified this whole idea that the Bermuda Triangle was responsible for the missing of Flight 19. Now, a second theory is parallel dimension. A parallel dimension. There's a theory out there that believes that Flight 19 experienced a time worm. They got put in this time hole. Look, I don't know, like Interstellar. Think of Interstellar. That's the only way I know how to imagine it. Okay, and there is this universe of ours where our dimension, where Flight 19 is missing, no one knows what happened to them. Like, oh my, you know. And then this other dimension where they're fine. They're just exploring a different dimension. Okay, I don't know. There's not really a lot to back up this and acknowledge this theory, you know. And I also want to acknowledge this theory because when I was a kid, I saw the Twilight Zone episode when that whole crew went through this time hole and they found themselves in geographic like dinosaur time. And when I thought of Flight 19, the first thing that popped in my mind is that Twilight Zone episode. So I'm just here to acknowledge that theory. You know, I really hope I did not make that confusing. It's just a parallel dimension. Now, next to the third conspiracy theory of the conspiracy of Flight 19, alien abductions. My favorite, alien abductions. People believe that the Bermuda Triangle is a hot spot for aliens due to its magnetic force. It's just almost like this portal where aliens can just go in and out of Earth's surface. And these aliens just abduct people and they're like, okay, we're going to take you. I don't, I have my own opinion about aliens. I'll get into that later video. But, this is just a theory out here that this is what happened. This was supported by the sci-fi film. Ready for it? look at my notes, make sure I say this correctly. 1977, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yes, this film supported the whole conspiracy theory of alien abductions taking place. Now, we're going to get more to like the level-headed, not so far out there conspiracy theories that I think are quite interesting. Now, the first one is more backed up by fact that maybe the equipment was just not doing what it should have been doing that day. Maybe the crew wasn't equipped that day to take care of the flight that they did. I just don't know if I solidly believe that. The reason why it's, I guess, just my opinion on it, and other things that I was finding on this, my counterpoint to that is this was post World War II. These pilots, yes, they probably were super tired, just drained from war. I can only imagine, but also too, like they're sharpened. They just got done with war, and more. I mean, 9 of them were going to graduate after this flight. I feel like, if anything, it's a time to prove now that you have the ability. You know what I mean? People believe that the conspiracy theory that supports the tragedy around and the conspiracy around Flight 19 is actually pilot Taylor himself. People believe him showing up late, him just not really want to be there that day, maybe being just zapped out from war and just tired of it, and maybe just tired of flying the way that he was flying, that he was an ill-equipped leader that day to fly and to lead Flight 19. He all stated in this same frequency wave that he took over because he believed that during the second part of their flight that something was going wrong. Like, he didn't like what was happening, so he took over, just grading how the trainee pilots were doing, how the students were doing. That's what he's supposed to do that day, but he didn't. He took over the flight for some reason. Now, the final conspiracy theory that I thought was really interesting, but the whole theory is that this is actually all set up. It's a setup for Flight 19. Reason why people believe that is that possibly Flight 19 was just done with war. The crew members, they were done with all that happened during World War II. They weren't looking forward to being a part of World War III, and they were just done. And maybe this flight route, which people knew was risky over the location that they were going, that it was just the best cover up to leave America and possibly land in the nearby islands. Now, the thing I can say about that, and I got a few things to say about that. For one, I just don't know if 14 guys who are acknowledged as war heroes, have wife, kids, military acknowledgement, a paycheck, stability, homes, just being a part of the military. They seem very patriotic. Why would they leave all that to go on an island? Hopefully make it to an island. Let's just hope we do. With 14 other guys. I'm just, you know, it's just, you know what you guys what I'm trying to say. You guys what I'm trying to say. And there's plenty of diaries and journals, logs around this time, and there is no letters. There's no notes. There is nothing to support that these men were so over it that they create a pact to just dip. And 14 guys, there's bound to be one big mouth. Okay? And there was none. There was none. There was no like extra food brought on the flights. There was nothing logged in extra beer. There was nothing. There was zip, okay? It's possible that if they were to fly west and go opposite of where they were at, that they could have made it to the Patrick Air Force Base in Florida. Not to Fort Lauderdale, but they could have also made it to the Patrick Air Force Base. You know, have a good beer, laugh about it, maybe shed a few tears, and then have a very intense debriefing. And then, fill back up and head to Fort Lauderdale. That's it, you guys, on the conspiracy and mystery surrounding Flight 19. Now, if you were here to believe, if you were here to debunk, if you were here to challenge your own perception of reality, that is conspiracy and mystery. It is time for me to take off. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.